Basketball is not just a game of talent. It's a game of vision, intelligence, and courage to challenge limits. Few players in history have combined these qualities as early as Luka Dončić. But before becoming one of the most influential names, in the NBA, his story began far from the spotlight, in a small town in Slovenia. Ljubljana, the Slovenian capital, was the birthplace of a boy destined for greatness. From a young age, Luka was not just another child passionate about basketball. He saw the game in a different way. While the others played for fun, Luka studied. He analyzed every detail, every movement, every decision made by the most experienced players. His father, Sasha Dončić, a former professional player and coach, realized early on that his son was no ordinary talent. His mother, Miriam Potebin, became the main supporter of the boy's career, ensuring that he had all the support he needed to grow on and off the court. At the age of 8, Luka began training at Union Olimpija, one of the biggest basketball academies in Slovenia. It didn't take long for his coaches to realize that they were looking at something special. Despite his young age, he demonstrated an unusual understanding of the game. His basketball IQ was impressive, and his ability to anticipate plays seemed natural. But there was a problem. Luka always played against older and physically stronger opponents. Instead of being a hindrance, this has become your advantage. Without the same strength and explosiveness as the other boys, he was forced to develop other aspects of the game. He worked on his dribbling ability, the precision of his passes, and above all, his court vision. Luka became a master at manipulating defenses, finding spaces no one else saw, and dictating the pace of the game with a maturity that defied his age. The turning point in Luka's career came early. At 13, he made a decision that few young people would have the courage to make. He left his home, his family, and his friends to move to Spain and join Real Madrid's youth teams. The challenge was gigantic. He was in a different country, surrounded by older, more talented players, and he needed to prove himself every day. But Luka was never intimidated by challenges. In the first few months, he had to deal with loneliness and the pressure of being away from home. But on the court, his adaptation was quick. Even facing more experienced athletes, his talent shone. Luka didn't just keep pace with the older players, he outperformed them. His game control, his patience, and his ability to make his teammates play better soon caught the attention of the coaching staff. At 15, Dončić was promoted to Real Madrid's reserve team, playing against professionals in one of the most competitive leagues in the world. At 16, he made his debut for the first team, becoming the youngest player in the club's history to play for the first team. It was at that moment that the world began to notice that this Slovenian boy was not just a promise. He was a phenomenon on the rise. While growing up at Real Madrid, Luka continued to evolve. His game became more and more refined. He not only scored, but made everything look easy. His passes were visionary, his shots had surgical precision, and his ability to make decisions under pressure was worthy of a veteran. The Slovenian boy was shaping his destiny. But the NBA world still didn't know what was coming. The boy from Ljubljana was about to become a legend. Luka Dončić didn't take long to turn potential into absolute dominance. When he arrived at Real Madrid, he was just a promising teenager. But within a few years, he would become the best basketball player in Europe, redefining what it meant to be a prodigy in modern basketball. At 16, Luka made his debut for Real Madrid's first team. For many young people, playing alongside experienced professionals and facing some of the best players in the world would be intimidating. But for Luka, it was just another natural step on his journey. He played with absurd maturity, making accurate decisions and dictating the pace of the match as if he were already a veteran. From the first minute on the court, it was clear that he was no ordinary player. His basketball IQ was exceptional, and his confidence was unshakable, even in the face of the greatest challenges. Real Madrid realized they had a generational talent on their hands. In a short time, Dončić went from being a gamble to becoming the team's main player. With each season, his minutes increased, his importance grew, and his name began to be talked about outside of Europe. Coach Pablo Lasso one of the main people responsible for his evolution, molded the young Slovenian to be the team's great leader. Luka became the centerpiece of the attack, leading Real Madrid to impressive victories. The peak came in the season of 2018. Luka didn't just lead Real Madrid to win the EuroLeague, he did so by becoming the youngest player to win the competition's MVP award. At just 19 years old, he dominated the playoffs and shone in the final against Fenerbahce, showing that he was ready for something even bigger. His performance caught the attention of the biggest basketball experts in the world. Not only did he score at a high level, but he also made everything look easy, as if he had absolute control of the court in his hands. His style of play intrigued analysts. Dončić wasn't the most athletic, it wasn't the fastest, but his intelligence and court vision made him always seem one step ahead of his opponents. He controlled the game like a maestro. He knew exactly when to accelerate and when to pace himself. His passes were surgical, his long-range shots precise, and his confidence unshakable. Furthermore, his versatility was unusual. He could play as a point guard, winger, or even as a winger, facilitating plays for his teammates and adapting to any tactical scheme. Comparisons began to emerge. Experts saw in him traces of legends such as Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and Manu Ginobili. His basketball IQ and creativity were unusual even by NBA standards. But despite the success, there were still doubts. The history of European players who were unable to adapt to North American basketball made some question whether Luka would be able to repeat this dominance in the NBA. The names of great European prospects who failed in the league, such as Ricky Rubio and Dražen Petrović, were frequently mentioned by critics. When he declared his entry into the 2018 draft, Dončić became the most intriguing prospect in the class. For European basketball fans, it was obvious that he should be the first choice. But for some NBA officials, the transition from European basketball to the American League was still an unknown. The game in the NBA was more physical, faster, and required a level of athleticism that Dončić apparently did not possess. But those who truly understood the game knew that Luka didn't just rely on physical attributes. His mind was his greatest weapon. On draft day, the Atlanta Hawks chose him in third position. But in an unexpected move, he was immediately traded to the Dallas Mavericks. Mark Cuban, owner of the Texan franchise, saw Luka as the perfect successor to Dirk Nowitzki. The Mavericks bet all their future chips on him. For Cuban, this wasn't just a technical decision. It was a strategic move that would ensure Dallas remained an NBA powerhouse for years to come. The big question now was, could Luka Dončić take all his dominance in Europe to the NBA? Or was he just another European talent who couldn't adapt to the more physical and fast-paced game of the American League? The world was about to find out. The boy who dominated Europe now had a new challenge ahead of him, conquering the most demanding league on the planet. The transition to the NBA is an ultimate test for any player. But for Luka Dončić, it was an opportunity to prove to the world that he was more than just a European prospect. When he arrived at the Dallas Mavericks, expectations were divided. Some analysts saw him as a generational talent, while others doubted his ability to adapt to the physical, fast-paced game of the American League. But it only took a few games for Luka to silence his critics. His NBA debut was remarkable. In his first season, Dončić didn't just play well, he dominated. His style of play, his maturity, and his ability to control the pace of matches quickly attracted attention. He finished the year with impressive averages of 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists, being named, unsurprisingly, the Rookie del Año. Dallas knew he had found his new leader. As the Mavericks rebuilt around Dončić, the team looked for pieces that could help him transform the team into a true title contender. The first big bet was Kristaps Porzingis. The idea was to create a lethal duo between a visionary point guard and a versatile pivot. But in practice, the partnership never reached its full potential. Injuries and fit issues caused Porzingis to be traded, leaving Dončić once again as the team's only major star. Even without a second star by his side, Luka has elevated his game to an impressive level. Not only did he lead the Mavericks in points and assists, but he did it all with a game control rare for someone so young. His performance in the 2020 playoffs against the Los Angeles Clippers was historic. Even facing a star-studded team with a relentless defense, Dončić shone. The high point came in Game 4, when he hit a three-point shot as the clock expired to give Dallas the victory. That game winner became one of the most iconic moments in the recent NBA and established Luka as one of the league's most spectacular players. With each season, Dončić continued to evolve. His averages rose, his records piled up, and he became a constant presence in MVP discussions. However, one problem persisted. The Dallas Mavericks couldn't build a competitive enough roster around them. While other teams formed super teams, Luka almost single-handedly carried the Mavericks, turning a limited squad into a real threat in the West. But something needed to change, and that change was about to happen. The 2024 season would be a game changer for Dončić and the Mavericks. For the first time since the Dirk Nowitzki era, Dallas was returning to the NBA Finals. Luka had a spectacular performance in the playoffs, eliminating strong opponents and showing that he was ready to compete for a title. Their finals matchup against the Boston Celtics was a true battle, with Dončić going straight against Jason, Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. But in the end, the title dream slipped away. The Dallas Mavericks fought back, but ended up being defeated by the Celtics, who had a relentless defense and a deeper roster. The frustration was immense. Luka had given everything, but he still hadn't managed to achieve the NBA's ultimate goal, the championship ring. Looking to the future, questions began to arise. Could Dallas finally put together a roster worthy of Luka Dončić? Or was the star's patience reaching its limit? The Mavericks' fate was about to change, and no one imagined what would come next. Luka Dončić was never an ordinary player. Since arriving in the NBA, he has defied expectations, broken records, and demonstrated impressive maturity on the court. But even with all this talent, one question still persisted. Could he lead the Dallas Mavericks to an NBA title? The 2024 season was definitive proof that he was ready for this mission. From the first game of the regular season, Luka played with a different intensity. His mindset seemed even more focused. He knew he was at a defining moment in his career. If he wanted to establish his name among the greats, he needed to show that he was capable of leading a team to the top. And he did exactly that. During the regular season, Dončić led the NBA in points and assists, leading the Mavericks to one of the best campaigns in the Western Conference. The team, despite not having a star-studded squad, showed a rare synergy. Coach Jason Kidd shaped a scheme around Luka's game, allowing him to control every possession with his masterful vision of the game. The connection with Kyrie Irving, acquired the previous season, finally showed results. Irving assumed part of the offensive responsibility, relieving Luka in crucial moments and making the team even more dangerous. In the playoffs, Dončić demonstrated why he was considered one of the most decisive players in the NBA. In the first round, Dallas faced the Oklahoma City Thunder, a young and athletic but inexperienced team. Luka dominated the series, imposing his strength and intelligence to neutralize the opposing defense. Next, the Mavericks met the Minnesota Timberwolves, a physical and defensively strong team. It was a real test for Dončić, who had to overcome relentless markings and extremely close games. With historic performances, Luka guaranteed qualification for the Western Conference Finals. Now, there was only one opponent left, the Boston Celtics. The NBA Finals of 2024 were marked by a clash between two of the league's biggest stars. On one side, Luka Dončić, trying to win his first ring. On the other, Jason Tatum, determined to bring the title to Boston after years of failed attempts. The series was intense, with games decided in the last seconds and memorable individual performances. Luka did everything he could to give Dallas the title. His numbers were absurd. Averages of 35 points, 10 assists, and 9 rebounds per game. In several games, he looked unbeatable, finding impossible angles for passes and hitting shots that defied physics. But the Boston Celtics squad was deeper, with a suffocating defense and players like Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis raising their game in decisive moments. In Game 6 in Boston, the Mavericks were on the brink of elimination. Luka delivered one of his best career performances, scoring 48 points, grabbing 11 rebounds, and dishing out 9 assists. But in the final minutes, the Celtics' defense prevailed, and Boston won the NBA title. It was a bitter moment for Dončić. He had taken the Dallas Mavericks further than anyone imagined, but it still wasn't enough to lift the trophy. In the changing rooms, the cameras captured a visibly frustrated, but also determined Luka. He knew he had come close, very close. But basketball doesn't forgive. And to win a title, you need more than individual talent. A complete team was needed. The big question now was, did Luka still believe in the Dallas project? Or would this defeat be the trigger for a radical change in his career? The defeat in the 2024 NBA Finals left a deep mark on Luka Dončić. He had given everything on the court, but even so, it wasn't enough to lead the Dallas Mavericks to the title. Behind the scenes, frustrations began to build. Luka had already carried the franchise on his shoulders for years, and after another season without elite reinforcements around him, his patience was running out. Rumors began to circulate quickly. NBA insiders began speculating that Dončić might be unhappy with the lack of support from the Mavericks front office. Mark Cuban and the team's new management assured him they were committed to keeping Luka happy. But the reality was that Dallas couldn't attract big-time stars to complement his game. Time was passing, and Luka didn't want to waste his prime. Years without a real chance of winning a title. Then, in the middle of the 2025 season, the unthinkable happened. Luka Dončić was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. The announcement took the basketball world by surprise. A trade of this level was rare in the NBA, especially involving one of the league's biggest stars. The deal was closed confidentially between Mavericks general manager Nico Harrison and Lakers Rob Pelinka. In exchange for Dončić, Dallas received Anthony Davis, a first-round draft pick, and young Max Christie. The reaction was immediate. Mavericks fans were devastated. They saw the face of the franchise sent to another team, without having the chance to see him win a title in Dallas. On the Lakers' side, the excitement was absolute. With Dončić alongside LeBron James, the franchise formed one of the most talented duos in recent NBA history. But not everyone was convinced the switch would be an immediate success. Luka was always a player who needed the ball in his hands to dominate. How would he fit alongside LeBron, another player accustomed to commanding offensive actions? There was a possibility that the playing styles would not match, and that was the biggest doubt for analysts. Backstage, Dončić had a mixed reaction. In previous interviews, he had made it clear that he wanted to spend his entire career in Dallas. He was comfortable in the city, had already built a strong relationship with the fans, and did not expect to be replaced so soon. But Luka was also a competitor. And when he realized that he would now play alongside LeBron James, his mindset changed. The Lakers management made it clear. Luka Dončić was the future of the franchise. LeBron was at the end of his career, and saw Luka as the perfect successor to carry on the mystique of the purple and gold team. The transition would be gradual, but Dončić's mission was clear. Continue the Lakers' greatness and lead the team to titles. Its debut in Los Angeles was an event in itself. The Crypto.com arena was packed, with thousands of fans cheering to see the team's new star. In a Lakers uniform, Luka seemed more motivated than ever. In his first game, he had 36 points, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds, showing that he was ready for the challenge. The trade was a shock to the NBA world, but now a new reality was established. Luka Dončić era Laker. But the big question remained. Would this change lead to the long-awaited title, or would it become one of the biggest mistakes in NBA history? Luka Dončić was now the new face of the Los Angeles Lakers. The pressure was immense. The NBA's most popular franchise not only demanded great performances on the court, but also expected its stars to carry on a legacy of greatness. Luka knew that. And he knew that, to succeed, he would need to prove that he was ready for the challenge. The weight of succeeding icons like Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James was not small, but Dončić was never one to back down from pressure. From the first game, Dončić demonstrated that his adaptation to the Lakers would not take long. The rapport with LeBron James was instantaneous. If there were any doubts about how two players who needed the ball in their hands would coexist, they were quickly dispelled. LeBron, now in the final stretch of his career, took on a more facilitative role, allowing Luka to be the team's main creator. The result was a fluid and dynamic attack, where Dončić could shine and explore his genius. The combination of their game vision raised the team's offensive level to unprecedented levels. Luka's numbers were spectacular. He maintained averages of close to 30 points per game, in addition to leading the team in assists and rebounds. But beyond the numbers, Dončić's impact was visible. The Lakers looked reinvigorated. The team, which had gone through ups and downs in recent years, was now once again a legitimate contender for the title. The fans, initially skeptical about the trade, began to embrace Luka as the new face of the franchise. Shirt sales soared, and the Crypto.com arena was always packed to watch the new era team in action. As the months passed, the Lakers rose in the Western Conference standings. Dončić had memorable performances, including a triple-double against the Mavericks in his first game against his former team. The confrontation was symbolic. While Dallas was still trying to find himself after leaving, Luka showed that his new home was in Los Angeles. The reunion with former teammates was marked by tense moments, but also by a dominant performance that reaffirmed their new position in the league. Behind the scenes, the mood at the Lakers was positive. LeBron James and Anthony Davis publicly praised Dončić, highlighting his work ethic and ability to raise the team's level. Coaches and players stated that the locker room had never been so united. Luka, in turn, recognized that the Lakers' structure provided him with support that he never had in Dallas. "Here, I feel that every detail is thought of to win," he declared at a press conference. But there was a big challenge ahead: the playoffs. And that would be the real test for Luka Dončić. The regular phase had been dominated, but in the decisive moments, he would have to deal with more adjusted defenses, more physical games, and the expectations of a fan base that would not accept anything less than victory. Coming into the postseason, as one of the title favorites, the Lakers would face their biggest test of all. Dončić's success in the playoffs was always undeniable, but now he carried the responsibility of bringing a championship to one of the NBA's most successful franchises. Would he be able to lead the Lakers back to the top? Comparisons with Kobe and LeBron intensified, and experts discussed whether Dončić could be the franchise's next great leader. The first challenge in the playoffs came in the form of a duel against the Phoenix Suns, a team full of offensive talent. Luka shone in each game of the series, raising his level of performance and demonstrating unquestionable leadership. With 40-point performances, impossible assists, and defining moments, Dončić guided the Lakers to victory. But the road was still long. In the conference semifinals, the opponent was the Denver Nuggets, champions of the previous year and led by fellow European, Nikola Jokic. The rivalry between the two has become one of the most anticipated in the league, with physical and strategic clashes worthy of the NBA Finals. Luka exploited every weakness in Denver's defense, and the Lakers advanced to a dramatic Game 7 victory thanks to a clutch shot from Dončić in the final seconds. Now, there was only one goal left: the NBA title. The path to glory was set, and Luka Dončić was ready to make history. But would this chapter end with a trophy in your hands? Or would the weight of expectation be too great even for a player of his caliber? The future was before him, and the entire NBA was watching.